Over the Caribbean Sea, 3 aging fighter jets charged straight toward the nuclear-powered aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. at a speed of 450 miles per hour, flying at an altitude below 2,000 feet, with no radio communication, no identification signals, and not a single warning. This was a sudden and provocative move by Venezuelan pilots, who had been meticulously trained for this very moment. They believed that surprise and aggression would shake the nerves of the Americans. Little did they know, they were diving headfirst into one of the most advanced air defense networks ever deployed at sea. The USS Gerald R. isn't just a floating airfield, it's a symbol of American naval might, a $13 billion marvel that embodies a simple yet powerful philosophy. If you're going to project power across oceans, do it with absolutely superior technology. The ship's deck spans 196,000 square feet, and its 2 A-1B nuclear reactors generate enough electricity to sustain a small city for decades without refueling. The ship's Combat Information Center processes more data in 60 seconds than the entire Venezuelan military handles in a week. Every system on board represents the pinnacle of naval warfare technology, and those Venezuelan pilots were about to learn a costly lesson about what that power truly means. The first contact was detected on the USS Gerald R. AN, SPY-6, radar at a distance of 54 miles. This isn't your old-school rotating dish antenna radar. It's an active electronically scanned array system with 37 synchronized radar faces, capable of tracking over 1,000 targets simultaneously and producing crystal-clear three-dimensional images that can distinguish a fighter jet from a flock of seagulls at ranges beyond 124 miles. It can cut through electronic jamming, neutralize low-altitude approach tactics, and render enemy stealth advantages nearly irrelevant. The Venezuelan pilots thought they were clever, flying low to exploit radar shadows, but the SPY-6 had spotted and tracked them from the moment they failed to stabilize their altitude after their initial descent. The element of surprise they were banking on existed only in their own minds. Inside the Combat Operations Center of the USS Gerald R. the atmosphere shifted from routine to razor-sharp focus in mere seconds. Dim blue lights illuminated rows of operators glued to their screens. There was no panic, just standard procedure. A petty officer marked the targets, an officer cross-checked flight data, and within 45 seconds, the entire carrier strike group knew the enemy aircraft's positions, speeds, and the exact moment they'd enter engagement range. At this point, the Venezuelan jets were still 12 minutes of flight time away from their target, but for the crew aboard the USS Gerald R. that time felt like an eternity. They had plenty of time to stay calm, brew some coffee, and methodically prepare to ruin someone's morning. At 6:17 in the morning, the order came from the ship's air commander: scramble the ready alert fighters. On the deck, controlled chaos erupted into action. Yellow-shirted aircraft handlers sprinted across the non-skid surface as 2 F-18E Super Hornets rolled to the catapult positions. The USS Gerald R.'s new electromagnetic aircraft launch system, or EMALS, powered up. Unlike the steam catapults on older carriers, EMALS uses linear induction motors to accelerate aircraft from zero to takeoff speed smoothly, reducing stress on airframes and, more importantly, slashing the time between launches. A steam catapult needs a few minutes to reset. EMALS takes just seconds. The first Super Hornet hooked up to the launch shuttle. After a 3-second system check, the green light flashed. The pilot throttled up to full afterburner. The 269-foot electromagnetic acceleration track compressed into less than 2 seconds. The Super Hornet rocketed off the bow at 170 miles per hour, climbing rapidly to confront the approaching threat. 12 seconds later, the second Hornet launched. Call signs Viper 1 and Viper 2. Their mission was clear: intercept, identify, and shadow. No engagement unless fired upon first. The rules of engagement were crystal clear, but everyone knew that clarity could blur when enemy jets barreled straight at your ship. By 6:21 in the morning, the situation escalated. New targets appeared on radar, taking off from Venezuelan airspace. 3 more F-16 seconds joined the initial formation, bringing the total to 6 aircraft, forming a wedge-shaped attack pattern aimed directly at the carrier strike group. This wasn't a stray patrol gone off course. It was a coordinated provocation designed to test American resolve. Someone in Caracas had decided today was the day to poke the American bear. But they were about to learn that this bear wasn't just awake, it was grumpy and armed with very long claws. The two Super Hornets climbed to 22,000 feet and vectored to intercept. Their APG-79 radars locked onto the enemy formation at 63 miles. Each pilot could see the tactical situation clearly on their displays. 6 hostile targets, a combined approach speed of nearly 900 miles per hour, and an estimated time to contact of about 4 minutes. 4 minutes to prepare for a confrontation that could end in silence or explode into an international incident. Aboard the Arleigh Burke-class destroyers USS Mason and USS Thomas Hudner, the response was equally precise. Both ships tightened their formation around the carrier, their Spy 1D radar systems tracking the incoming targets, while electronic warfare suites activated in passive mode, collecting data without broadcasting. Every radar frequency and communication pattern from the Venezuelans was recorded, analyzed, and stored for future use. The U.S. Department of Defense is always hungry for electronic intelligence. They collect everything because you never know what might be valuable until you need it. By 6:24 in the morning, the first visual contact was logged. Viper 1 spotted sunlight glinting off an enemy cockpit at the 11 o'clock position, low altitude. 6 F-16 seconds flew in tight formation, close enough to make out distinct markings. Venezuelan Air Force insignia, centerline drop tanks, and no visible external weapons. This was a deliberate choice, meant to provide plausible deniability. They weren't here to fight. They were here to intimidate a familiar game that Russia often plays over the Baltic Sea or China employs in the Taiwan Strait. Fly aggressively, claim innocence, and hope the other side blinks first. Viper 1 radioed in. Visual on 6 hostile targets, bearing 095, altitude 12,000 feet, nose hot. The tactical action officer on the USS Gerald R responded instantly. Viper team, maintain defensive posture, do not lock targets, do not engage, observe, and report only. The pilot acknowledged, Roger, staying clean. What followed was 47 minutes of high-stakes chess in the sky at 400 miles per hour. The Venezuelan formation repeatedly split and reformed, individual aircraft peeling off to make mock dives toward the destroyers before pulling up at the last second with afterburners blazing. One F-16 rolled inverted and dropped to just 800 feet above the water, so low that the engine exhaust left a visible trail on the waves. Another climbed to 30,000 feet and circled lazily, possibly collecting electronic intelligence. This was classic gray zone tactics, aggressive enough to send a message, restrained enough to avoid crossing into open conflict. Throughout it all, the Super Hornets maintained perfect discipline. They shadowed without crowding, monitored without locking on, communicated without escalating. Every enemy maneuver was captured by sensors across the strike group from multiple angles and frequencies, building a comprehensive tactical picture that Venezuelan commanders would never see. The Americans weren't just defending, they were learning. Each aggressive maneuver revealed insights into Venezuelan training doctrines, pilot skills, and tactical preferences. At 6:39 in the morning, the most dangerous moment unfolded. One F-16 abruptly veered directly toward the USS Gerald R and descended rapidly. On deck, the Phalanx Close-In Weapon System, or CIWS, nicknamed R2D2, swiveled to track. In terminal defense mode, this automated system doesn't wait for human orders. Its radar locked on, its computer-calculated firing solutions, and its 20mm Gatling gun stood ready to unleash 4,500 tungsten rounds per minute. Those rounds form a metal wall capable of shredding missiles or aircraft into fragments. The F-16 leveled off at 600 feet and roared over the bow, close enough to rattle coffee cups in the officers' mess. Sailors on deck felt the shockwave ripple through their chests. The Phalanx tracked the entire pass but didn't fire. Engagement criteria weren't met. Close isn't close enough. Aggressive isn't hostile. But every sailor who watched that jet scream by knew how thin the line between tension and international disaster really was. One twitch from the Venezuelan pilot, one misinterpreted radar signal, or one jittery American gunner, any of those could have turned this morning into a global crisis. 15 seconds later, The F-16 climbed and peeled away. The dangerous moment passed. Heart rates returned to normal. By 6:51 in the morning, without a word of warning, the Venezuelan formation broke off. The 6 F-16 seconds turned southwest and accelerated back to base. No radio contact, no explanation. They just left, leaving behind jet exhaust and unanswered questions. Maybe they'd achieved their objective, maybe they were low on fuel, or maybe someone in Caracas decided discretion was the better part of valor. The Americans would never know for sure. They could only watch the radar blips fade and breathe a sigh of relief. The USS Gerald R didn't alter course, didn't deviate a single degree, didn't adjust a single knot of speed. A $13 billion war machine of the U.S. Navy glided serenely across the Caribbean as if 6 foreign fighter jets buzzing overhead were barely worth noticing. This calculated indifference was a powerful message in itself. You don't scare us, you don't impress us, you don't even inconvenience us. But the intelligence haul was invaluable. Every radar signature from those F-16 seconds was recorded, every radio frequency archived, every flight pattern analyzed for clues about training doctrines. The SPY-6 system tracked continuously, building profiles that will shape American tactical planning for years. The Venezuelan pilots thought they were challenging the USS Gerald R. But in reality, they'd unwittingly handed the Americans a detailed electronic fingerprint of their Air Force's capabilities. Like a poker player accidentally showing their hand while trying to bluff, the cost-benefit analysis tells the real story. Venezuela burned through about $47,000 in fuel and maintenance for those 47 minutes of provocation. They exposed electronic signatures worth millions in intelligence value, demonstrated hostile intent, and thereby justified an increased American naval presence in the region. Strategically, they gained nothing. No territory, no political concessions, no change in U.S. patrol patterns. Meanwhile, the USS Gerald R. sailed on. The ship's air wing conducted scheduled training flights that afternoon. The crew ate dinner on time. The incident was logged, reported, and filed. Business as usual for a carrier strike group that handles more complexity before breakfast than most navies manage in a month. Within 48 hours, Venezuelan state media released carefully edited footage, claiming their brave pilots had forced the American carrier to retreat a piece of domestic propaganda. But the USS Gerald R. log tells a different story. No course change, no speed adjustment. The carrier steamed a perfect straight line through the encounter, treating the 6 hostile jets like most people treat annoying seagulls at a beach picnic. This is how modern gray zone confrontations play out. One side pushes, the other refuses to react. No shots are fired, but messages are exchanged through radar signals, flight patterns, and cold calculations of what each side is willing to risk. Venezuela wanted to prove they could challenge American dominance in their own backyard. What they actually proved was that confronting a Ford-class carrier strike group with 30-year-old F-16 seconds is like challenging a chess grandmaster while telegraphing your moves 3 turns in advance. That morning, the Caribbean Sea remained calm. No missiles were launched, no casualties occurred, no international crisis erupted, just 6 jets returning home with empty gestures and full after-action reports. Meanwhile, the most powerful warship ever built continued south without missing a beat. Some lessons are taught with explosions, but this one was taught with indifference. And for Venezuelan Naval Command, that quiet dismissal likely stung more than any missile ever could. They came looking for a reaction but got only a shrug.